Wonderful, a family of four. If you will take a sport, let's go. Thank you. Thank you. And relax. Thanks a lot.
Where am I?
What about a Kira?
Living room. Hide now.
Alright, ladies, that's it. If I get you all just sitting on the bench in that far corner and in this area completely clear off. So first go over the areas you need. This wall is fine. This is safe. Over there. I need a stain. Now, Danny, you've got your heavies to hold on to just to be nice and secure. Alright, welcome to Fremantle. My name is Annette and I will be your tour guide as we take you behind the walls of Fremantle Prison. The first, we've got rules, so we have to work with the rules to begin with. Rule number one, well it's not really a rule, but we just want to make sure you talk to the working. So the little button at the top, press it on and off, make sure it's working. Trying to people's eyes, no, don't try it. Anyone's eyes. Especially not my eyes while I'm talking, because it's very uncomfortable to have a torch in your eyes while you're talking. So they are actually designed for you to look at where you're walking, because there's a lot of little trips and dips throughout this prison, so the torch is there to show your way around. It is a gift from Fremantle Prison. You are able to keep that after the tour. We don't want it back. Do as you wish with it afterwards. Rule number 2. You are welcome to take as many photographs, and we encourage it on a Torchlight tour because you never know what you might see in those photographs. I just ask if there's artwork, you take your flash off, and we will come across some artwork in position 3. Videoing. You are welcome to videos, but not the tour. I don't want to be on your videos. Please do not video me. Please not video the whole tour and then upload it onto social media. We are not happy with that because it spoils for other people. And I personally don't want to be on social media, so please refrain from videoing me on your tour. Now, rule number 4, I think I'm up to, must stay together. And be very mindful of what you touch as you walk around this particular prison as well. It is an old prison, and limestone crumbles, things fall off, so please refrain from touching things as you walk around. Now, does anyone believe in the supernatural? I like people that believe, that's really good. Because this building is listed as the most haunted site in Western Australia. And the reason that it is because of its history. It has a very, very dark history, Fremantle Prison. Has anyone been here before? Thank you, return people. You know when it's a functioning business with 40% return rate. So Fremantle Prison begins its life in 1852 as a convict establishment. It sees 10,000 male convicts come between its walls between 1852 and 1868. The last boat arrives the Hougoumont in 1868, and slowly the convicts start to dwindle out of the building and start their lives here in the Swan River colony. When we get to around 1887, there's about 60 convicts left in the building. Not enough for the British government to fund or pay for the building anymore. And that's when they hand it over to Western Australian Swan River colony or Western Australian government, and it becomes a maximum security maximum security prison in Western Australia. And it remains a maximum security prison in Western Australia until 1991. So 136 years of incarcerated children. The youngest one to come in the walls was an 8-year-old boy. Women, juveniles, and mostly men would have come here from Fremantle Prison. Now, we also have the gallows on site, where 44 people were executed here at Fremantle Prison. The first one being in around 1888 and the last one in 1964, Eric Edgar Cook. So we will visit the gallows this evening. We'll also visit solitary confinement, where a lot of men were locked up to break their minds and their will. And also we will visit the flogging place and some other areas today. So we'll give you warnings at certain locations, just to make sure you're okay to go through those areas as well. But when you first arrive at Fremantle Prison, this is the area you will be received in. It is called the reception. Prison van will reverse up to the same door you guys have all walked into today, offload about 13 inmates to the maximum we could process at any given time, or sat on that very bench that you guys are sitting on. One by one, you'll be asked to take your shoes and socks off. There'll be a calico bag behind this lovely family here, hanging above your head. Welcome to Fremantle Prison. Of course, it won't say that. And one by one, you'll put your gear into that bag, and then you'll all be sitting naked on the bench and be asked to come up to this little white line, would have been a white line back in the day, to toe the line. And now what are we going to do? We're going to check that you've not brought anything into this prison. You shouldn't be into this prison. We're going to check your mouth. We're going to check your ears, underarms, every other part of your body, and then you'll be asked to be
over here.
Which I will not do because of COVID. And then, if they intercept you have got something in those areas you should not have, they're going to take you to that room there. They get a bit of privacy now. Pop on that rubber glove. That's where the rubber glove search begins. Then you'll be brought back in here, taken into this little area where you'll be showered, brought back in here to be given your prison greens, which is your winter outfit, your summer outfit, and then sat ready to go to take it to your cell. They'll give you one of these little bags, which is what they call the emergency kit, some basic means of survival, toilet paper, underwear, toothbrush, toothpaste, and your little blue book. Your little blue book is the most important thing here in Fremantle Prison. It's going to give you rules, your regulations, everything you need to know to start your journey here in the prison, what jobs you can do, behavioural expectations, and what can be taken away from you if you misbehave. And then you will sign the back of that book and start your journey. Now, if you arrive here at Fremantle Prison and you are needing to be in protected custody, that little brown box there in the corner is where you're going to go first. And that little brown box is designed to keep you safe. All these 13 inmates will now be moved out, taken into their cells, and you'll be processed last. We've had some pretty infamous inmates here. If you know about Morehouse Service in Western Australia, he comes here to Fremantle Prison, and I'm almost certain he would have begun his life in that very brown box. As probably would have been a good cook as well at some point in his time. Now, you could have been coming into Fremantle Prison on death row. The death row stayed in place right up until the 26th of October, 1984. So last execution from 64. So for nearly 20 years, you could have sat here on death row. Imagine thinking that's going to be your fate. You could have been an innocent man locked up in this prison. You could have been a juvenile coming into this prison.
Royal.
You could have been that 8-year-old boy standing bananas who came into this prison. This prison has a lot of dark history. What do you call that dark history? So when you're all ready, let's get moving on and start our journey into Fremantle Prison. Are we ready? Yeah. Torch is on. If your torch stops blazing throughout the journey tonight, please let me know. I have the backups in my pocket, and I can give you one. And let's make sure we all stay together. No one has any food. If you have any food or anything other than water, there is a bin. Please put it in there.
What is happening? Dead. Gone.
No, I just said
Hunger. Play. Stay on. Electric. It's what we want.
One thing I did not mention, which is quite surprisingly, I normally would mention it, right up until 1991, there was never toilet the men used that bucket and sell in their toilet. Right up until 1991, no running
What
water.
do you want?
If you do number two, you wouldn't even be able to wash your hands because that is what you had to endure. Let me just shut this door and get started.
Angry.
So where you are now is in Division 1. What they have done in this division is to strip it back to like it did in the convict era. The floor you stand on is the ballast of the boat, known as Yorkshire flagstone, or the railings are off the boat, or the doors are off the boat. That's just the bottom of the boat, the way it curves around, or the jarrah is from King's Park, and that's how they build it busy. And look at it, look there. Now, so like the prisoner in those early years was seen hooks hanging off the side railing. They would have had a landman coming around and he would have burnt lovely whale oil. So on top of the lovely smell of your bucket, you had whale oil burning as well. Later on replaced with kerosene, and in 1910 they finally put electricity through the building. Probably not a lot, still would have been very, very dark. And as you can see, this is a very dark building. Very quiet at the moment, but it would have been howling at night time. All these inmates would have been screaming in their cells, crying out maybe for their mothers, or crying out for all sorts. This was a very tough prison to work in at the time. God, it would have been absolutely...
Right. You must be our new prison officers in training. Fantastic, a nice big group of you. Excellent. Now, first rule of prison officer training is what happens in training is stays in training, which means no photography or filming on myself and of the other prison officers, any of the prisoners you might see here tonight. Maximum security facility. Wash your hands. Alright, now, this thing. Shit bucket, that's nobody's friend. Now we will tell you as well, before you start work and on your first day, not to wander around in the middle of the cell block that you'll forget. First day of work, so many things to remember. A lot of people will remember it's your first day, or they won't forget. They'll be waiting upstairs with the lids off of their bucket to give you a nice welcoming shower, at which point you will suddenly remember, oh shit. I should be standing under the safety of the balcony, like they told me 100 times, but I wasn't listening. That's okay. You're safe at the moment. Don't need to worry too them. They are locked away for the evening. Speaking of the evening,
idiotic.
Night duty at the moment. Fish, lock it up. First of all, quite late.
18. Lower your voice.
You'll be wandering around the prison in the middle of the night with nothing but a torch, a baton, a whistle, and your wits. You'll be doing spot checks on some of the cells, waking up the prisoners in the middle of the night. They love that. Searching their cells for contraband. That's a big fancy word for anything they're not allowed to have. Basically anything you haven't given them. Somehow they get shit in here. We could have taken off them. Surprise, surprise, you're not going to be their best friend. You will be called all sorts of horrific things you couldn't even begin to imagine would come out somewhere. You need to be resilient, because, of course, I've seen them make grown men cry. If they find your sore spot, they will exploit it. You also need to be careful of your personal safety. Often the prisoners get into little fights. You've got to keep watch, make sure it doesn't become a riot. To do things like call for backup, blow your whistle, make sure you're safe. They've got these buckets with them. And if you're not watching and one of those hits you in the back of the head, you're going to wake up in hospital. You're not coming back to work. Okay, good. And it's going to let me know how you go with the rest of the training. You are heading out the yard through here, mind your head, mind your feet, mind your manners. Don't pick the buckets. Remember rule 1. Be resilient, and you are dismissed.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is where our torches come into play. Show them on the ground, make sure you know the grip, and follow me.
Oh, thank you. He did say to lock the gate after us. Yeah, whoever's last out in this is on the gate. Thank you.
Hospital. Pardon. Down there. Keys.
Go to the count then. Oh, they're falling down.
I'm confused. It's bright.
Now, Fremantle spent 10 hours a day in these yards, 14 hours in your cell, and on public holidays and weekends, if you did an extra hour in the cell, let's say for 9 hours out here, 15 hours not done in your cell with the bucket, and sometimes with your cellmate. You want to like the man you're sharing the cell with, because otherwise your life would be horrible, as it would be coming out to these yards every single day. It takes one man not to like you in these yards, and your life every day is going to be absolutely horrendous. 10 times worse than being probably bullied at school, that's for sure. Not a very nice place to be at all. You got things to entertain you. You've got You've got a TV at the end there with a little ladder that's going to take you up. Why do we need a ladder to a TV? Go to the channel. If you're as old as I am, because say we are, so I go as old as you needed a remote. You didn't have a remote control. There's a tune. There's probably 3 or 4 channels. So you've got TV. You've got physically tested. You can work out. You've got basketball. You've got tennis. You've got things to entertain you. But why they're dangerous places to be is because that little hut that you see over there with the cage is where one guard will sit. One guard for over 100 men in this yard. If something happens in this yard, he will blow a whistle. And he'll bring attention to other guards. Probably later on in history he would have had a radio, he would have been out a radio guard, there's a fight happening in DD1 or DD2. So he ain't going to get into this yard to save your life, but other guys who probably don't like him.
Where is this?
Time for backup. A backup could take half an hour, could take an hour, could take a while before they come in. And that's why dangerous places here, these yards are. Now if you're from West Australia, you'll be familiar with a couple of men called the Nickelbergs, Ray and Peter. They get accused of stealing gold from the Perth Mint. Been in the news a bit lately, hasn't it, called Perth Mint?
Julia.
And they basically get sentenced to 15 years for a crime that's later discovered they did not do. 8 years they spent here in Division 2, and in the case here in Division 2, Ray comes to the defence of his brother Peter, his younger brother, who gets into a fight, and in that fight Ray has a positively finger victim. They then get his little finger and use it as a soccer ball. Woo, let's kick that around. Then they get it and they flush it down the open cesspool within these yards. That all happens before someone even enters into the yard. And that's when we talk about being a dangerous place. They really are. Now, here in the yards, you would have had razor wire would have been running between the yards to stop men jumping from one yard to another. They might have lights on in here. Prior to razor wires invention, they used glass. It's pretty eerie looking at the glass that would have run along there. So you wouldn't want to be jumping over there at all. And as we know what razor wire does, when you go in it, you move around, it's going to cut you to pieces. They've taken a lot of that razor wire away because they were able to reuse it, but that is all gone now. But right up until 1965, though, however, this was called the Noongar Division because First Nations people were all locked up in here, the Jarvis and climate, and then of course it becomes non-violent crime, 10 to 15-year inmates. Now, if you want to, I'll give you a couple of minutes if you like. If you want to just have a little look photo, please don't exit out of that exit area. Have your torches on the ground to look at where you are walking. You've got about a minute if you want to have a quick look, and then we'll head back into the prison. So, if you don't want to, you can stay seated, but if you do, watch where you are walking. next man I'm going to talk about. Every time I talk about him, I feel that he is really
Frightened.
Sorry. This place is just full of very... Alright, come on down, ladies and gentlemen.
Closed.
Not going to jump out of here if I stand here. No. Everyone's got heads now, aren't they? What is that loud word? So you did pick up when I went "God" really loud because you didn't hear me, so I had to say it again. Come on out. So continue, I don't know. Do that again.
How old are you?
Alright. You're now in Division 2. Now you feel like you're in prison a bit more here in that modern kind of era because they've left it as it would have been. The nets are put up in 1920. In 1901 a man does jump to his death. So they put the nets up to stop that occurring. I've got everyone's mic out here, haven't I yet? Now, the nets obviously stop men jumping, they stop things being thrown over, they stop men being pushed over, but they don't stop the contents of the buckets coming over, and that's what the guard referred to before in Division 1, so you would definitely be walking under the landing. But my next story brings me to a man named James Tilbury. Now, James Tilbury in 1971 comes into Fremantle prison, and his charge is murder. Him and his de facto wife, pretty heavy drinkers, they get into a drunken fight. He gets the kettle cord and he strangles with her, and he murders her. The judge sentenced James to death for that particular crime. Now, James comes into Fremantle prison, and within a couple of months he finds out his young son that he shared with his wife dies in a drowning accident. And they say James just smashes up his cell, because I think at that point he feels that guilt. Because if he had not done what he'd done, he would have been out there with his wife and with his son. Now, James Tilbury, after being the death penalty coming off the table, they turn his sentence into a 20-year sentence, 18 years for good behaviour, goes straight back out into the community. He's out in the community for less than 3 months. Driving through the streets of Kelmscott in the late 80s, he sees a young girl hitchhiking down the side of the street, starts right. She gets into the car where he breaks her and he murders her. Asked by the judge later on, why did you do it? Don't know, just killed at a spare moment job. And that, to me, makes that man a very dangerous man. Because had he been executed as the judge had ordered, she would survive. So it's always that debate in society there. Now, James Tilbury comes back into Fremantle prison, learns in a very short period of time that young lady that he murdered on the outside, her boyfriend was a well-known drug dealer, serving time in Cannibal Remand at that very moment in time. Puts a hit on James Tilbury's head. Whoever kills that man, I'll give you money, I'll give you drugs, I'll give you whatever you want. So James Tilbury now has to go into protected custody. Section 43 cells. These are really horrible places to be, but they keep you protected from the outside inmates, but not from your own mind. The suicide rates are extremely high in Section 43 cells. He enters this Section 43 cell. You have your own cell where you're locked up for 14 to 15 hours a day. Then you have your own yard where you're in for another 10 hours a day. Very, very lonely life. And he does attempt to take his own life. They release him, take him over to the boiler room, where he spends the rest of his time working pretty much here and in the print shop here at Fremantle Prison, to keep him sort of out of the main yards. In 2018, after spending 46 years incarcerated, he dies in Casuarina Prison. 46 years locked up. But at least he got to live for 46 years. 2 other women did not because of James. We're going to walk through this Section 43 cell, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a little think. Could you do okay in one of these? I know I couldn't. I wouldn't want to.
Don't leave me. Where are we? I come and go. Medicine.
Yeah, well, glad it's really good down there.
Thanks.
So, yeah. So what do we think? Pretty cell, isn't it? So there's a few sets of 43 cells throughout the system, and it was way too early years for pet touch. Obviously, modern systems now have a far better system. Now, your root here was put in place around the 70s, because then, not in this particular cell, but in another section of 43 cells, they worked out that they made a human pyramid on the external wall. They got up and they got into here and they deeply made up quite badly because there was no cave on the roof. So that's when they start caving them in for extra protection as well. So you're stuck out here for 10 hours a day. But after a while, the walls would just slowly start coming in on you. And you imagine on a 45-degree day, a 40-degree day here, so this would be roasting hot. And on a really cold, wet day, the rain's coming in, you're going to get water and flooding. Because that's the only bit of protection you've got for 10 hours a day. You're not allowed back in your cell until the afternoon at 4:15. You've also got a toilet. You've got a roof over your head here. I'm sure if the wind and rain was flying in, you'd get wet. So 43 cells. But if the guard's going to say to you,
Don't go there.
Get out the back. From the convict area to the monitor where you start.
Sacrifice.
Because what's going to happen to you out the back is three things. Flogging post, solitary confinement, or the gallows. Nothing more. Our first journey is the flogging post. So let's talk about flogging.
Disrespectful. Foolish.
So flogging here in Western Australia begins in the convict era. Now, it actually starts with life in England. They were great at punishing people. They knew all the great things. They would give you 500 lashes on the Navy boats back in the day, which was a death sentence. And the old saying, flogging a dead horse, is where that comes from. But here in Western Australia, the maximum you're going to receive is 100 lashes, which is pretty hard. They're going to strap your legs up on the side of this tripod. They're going to have your arms like so, you're almost leaning into the device. You've got a belt around your waist to protect your kidneys and a collar around your neck to protect your arteries.
Beside you.
Kill you. They just want to hurt you. Now, you've probably tried to escape.
How are you?
You might have spoken up against the officer. You might have tried to sell the clothes that you don't own, which were called your slops. You're now tied up, ready to go. For example, this man hypothetically has been given 50 lashes by the judge. So the only man now who has the power to stop it is the doctor. And he's going to stand and he's going to keep an eye on the proceedings. He's probably going to monitor your face because that's what that gives away the most information to him. Now the man with the cat o' nine tails, the lovely hat. Now this will be brought out of the bag. When you say taking the cat out of the bag, that's exactly what it means. This cat has 9 ends. Each end is knots.
Scaryscooby.
And each of those knots is what's going to cause the most damage to your back. Now, there is actually talk that the flagellator, who the man is who holds the whip, would soak this in salt water as well, so it makes each of these strands really tough and hard into your back. But this is punishment of the body. We've also got punishment of the mind, which is directly behind you. Obviously, confinement, also known as the factory. And that's where our next journey takes us. We love it out the back, don't we? Now, if anyone wants to get a photograph on here, you're welcome to do so. After I tell my story, very few people want to come on and get the story, a photo, but you are welcome to do so. Even if you want to hold that position, see what it feels like, it's very uncomfortable, please do so. I'm going to put my lovely cat of nine tails on my waist. I'm going to hold it, not too much.
Please stop. A long time ago.
No takers. Oh, did I ask it? All right, let's head around the back.
Other side. I'm stuck.
All right, this building behind me. There's some buildings at Fremantle prison that people just don't like. The gallows, and the factory, and the morgue. I have people on tours that don't even want to go in it. They just feel a horrible vibe, and this place certainly does that. So in 1852, the British government commissions this building to be built. secondary punishment for convicts. Edward Henderson fights for this building not to be built. He doesn't believe convicts need any extra punishment. They're pretty brutally punished already. He's overruled and they build it. This is designed to lock you up for 6 months at a time for 23 hours a day, with 1 meal a day, bread and water, enough to keep your body and soul alive. Now, you're going to spend your time in these cells here? Not so bad. 23 hours a day. You've got no furniture. You've got no bed. All you have is a blanket potentially on the the east side, and on the west side you'd have a Bible during the day. But if you continue to misbehave, you're going to go into these cells at the end here, the dark cells, where you see the black grills in the walls. 23 hours a day for up to 6 months at a time in complete and utter darkness all day. You can't even see your hand in front of your face in those dark cells. And when they decide to let you out for that 1 hour, you're going to come out, they're probably going to take you out in the bright sunshine. Imagine your eyes, how much they would be absolutely hurting from that. Cruel, cruel building, designed to destroy you mentally, and that it does. But at least you were alive, because if you go to cell number 1, which is the cell at the very end there, yep, showing your tortures, that is where you're going to spend the last 2 hours of your life before you're taken.
I want you to go.
And we believe that those 44 people spent the last 2 hours of their life in that very room before they marched away.
Oiled.
Number 7 should be there, but it's off the wall. They're in the process of repairing it. Number 6 is not there. Number 16 is not there. Because the hour you would have had out of your cell would have been exercise running from one number to another. Touching those numbers. Touching number 6 actually could have meant that the hangman's noose. Number 16 is the hangman and the noose. So their superstition would have allowed them to not want to touch them, so they could just put them on the wall.
Monster.
Even a few feet here at Fremantle Prison.
Dirty.
There's small plates down here, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get a bit closer. Just have to stay out there, you're welcome to do so. There's space here. And that's all here if you want to come down. So everybody now? Now, if you have a look at it, even when you walk in the wall, into the door, the thickness of the wall, these walls are designed to be so thick that these men couldn't be heard. Even the roof design, the way it is designed to keep these air in here, airflow, just a bucket in your cell, and these men will do it.
Cousin. Framed. Cousin. No. Death.
Especially if you've got young children as well on the tour. Most people don't care, but just to be on the safe side, we do have people, that's everyone here. The next area we're going to enter, we're going to follow the path of a condemned man. We're going to go to the gallows. But the gallows can be very confronting for some people, the way it's designed, the way it's set up. And if you are interested, the most amount of activity that gets recorded in Fremantle Prison is recorded in the gallows as well. The most creepy photos are coming from the gallows as well. So if you're ready, follow me, ladies and gentlemen. So, there's 2 entry points. One has stairs, one doesn't. I don't care what entry point you go into. We can try to easily distribute the tell. Come on then.
Laughing. Can you help me? Very.
Well, it's not uncommon for a convict to be sentenced to 100 lashes. We are going to reenact that very flogging procedure that would take place inside this prison, and for that I need 2 volunteers. Okay, all right. Now, you're very keen to volunteer, so that means you're going to be the one we flog. Okay? All right. Now, what's your name?
I said no. How?
Is everyone comfortable enough for me to start talking? You're all okay? If not, I've opened the door to Division 3. You can step outside and fresh air and walk away. So here in Western Australia,
Can you hear
executions
it?
have taken place in multiple locations across the colony. Majority of them probably Perth Jail, the Roundhouse and different areas. They were public. Anyone could go and watch an execution. And towards the end of that time, before Fremantle Prison opens up, they start to complain they don't want to watch. The public don't want to see it anymore. So they start to put sort of sheeting around when they do executions. And when they decide to bring the gallows here to Fremantle Prison, they decide, you know what, it's going behind closed doors, no one's going to watch it anymore. But what does come over from the original place in Perth Jail was this beam. And if you have a look at this beam, shiny torches on it, you'll see indentations running right along the beam. And that would have been used for so many years. Those indentations take more than one rope to make an indentation. So in those early years, they would have executed 3, 4 people along the beam at one time. Over in Fremantle, it only happens on a couple of occasions when they execute 2 people simultaneously. And their theory is, if you have been chosen the same murderer die, why should I live a minute longer than you? So we're all going to die at exactly the same time. Now, you'll be executed for murder in Western Australia, but whether you're guilty of that or not is really open to, discussion, I suppose. So the first execution to take place in this room was in 1888, and the last one, as I said before, in 1964. Most executions take place at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, but you would have been sitting on death row waiting for that to occur. You probably would have been visited by the executioner a couple of days before the time of your execution, and he's going to weigh you and measure you to make sure this rope length and strength is going to be appropriate for your height and your weight. And then the morning of your execution, at 5:45 in the morning, you'll be woken up, taken to cell number 1, where you will get a change of clothing, similar to a hospital gown, easy to remove off your body upon your death. You'll then get your last meal of your life, the choice to speak to a priest if you wish, and then just before 8 o'clock, that shot of brandy comes your way if you're required. Just a couple of shots to calm your nerves. And then even a shot of brandy to calm my nerves because we're all crazy. And then just before around 8 o'clock, the 4 cornermen are going to come and pay you a visit. They're going to shackle your ankles, shackle your wrists, bring you up into the room where they are now going to hand you over.
You are annoying.
And he will take over from here. All the officials are all here to watch and document what's happening. And then just before 8 o'clock, he's now attached you to the rope. He's put a hood over your head, and the 4 cornermen, their job now takes over. They have to hold onto this bar with one hand on you front and back on 4 sides, so that when you're dropping into the pit, you're dropping straight into that pit. No movement of your body. 8 o'clock on the dot. Bang! The trapdoors are going to open, you're going to fall straight down into that pit where your C2, your C3 vertebrae should snap, and it should be an instant death. Your body will stop moving. As soon as it stops moving, the doctor descends down those stairs that you have behind you there, goes down, execution lowers your body, then they call you a death, paperwork will come, body's taken back up those stairs, straight through to the front of the prison for your family to collect. If your family doesn't want your body will be buried in a pauper's grave in Fremantle Cemetery. Martha Roselle in 1909, family didn't want her body. Eric Edward Cook in 1964, family didn't want his body. They were both buried in the same pauper's grave in Fremantle Cemetery. Those graves have since been marked because they weren't marked for many years. If you ever want to go check out the Fremantle Cemetery graves, you certainly can because they are now well, a bit of a trail I think you can do through. After every execution, this rope will be burnt. It cannot be reused because it is now compromised. The chair is in place. If you cannot stand for the execution, they will allow you to sit, but of course there's a string attached so that they don't smash the chair every time you are executed. On the day of an execution, all inmates are removed from their cells at 8 o'clock, just before 7:45, taken out into the yard. They will know there's an execution taking place that day, and they say in documentation that they know the execution has taken place, because if they're close by they'll hear the door open, but also because all the birds fly away from the building, they hear the noise and they will leave. And an owl has also been recorded in history as well, being around the building at the day of an execution, because an owl is the bird of death, comes to take the spirit of the man away. Now, 1909, as I say, is the only female, but 44 people executed in this very room. So a little bit of history here. You've got 13 bars that run along the top of that side of the roof, 13 bars that run along that side of the roof. This is a 13-foot drop straight down into the pit, 13 stairs that take you down into the pit. And in early executions, 13 men in the room, 13th man being the man being executed. And of course, if you understand religion in the Bible, goes back to 13 disciples of 13 Jesus Christ. And so that is how they worked it. And some people believe that these two lights that you see is the last light you'll see the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You now see. So this is the gallows. And like I say, there's not for you activity in the most amount of photos I've seen. There's an image sent to us.
Stop recording.
On his chair. We've also seen orbs dropping down into the pit. Probably the creepy thing was for me.
Hello.
It was about 3 weeks ago. We were in here at the daytime tour. Lady was in here. She had a baby in her front carrier, and a little baby was about 3, was just sort of wandering around. And she said, you guys talk it. These babies, you know. She goes, because my little boy is over there in the corner talking to someone and he wants me to meet him. I'm like,
Candle.
that's so now. Because they do say children are very sensitive to spirits and spirit world, so you often do find that it's common. Now, if you want to get photos, please do so. We're going to head now back into Division 3, so when you finish, we'll move quickly. So take the photos quickly and we'll head on from here.
This is strange. Guardian.
I won't leave anyone in here like this room. You cannot get out of it. So those have been different purposes, but in the early years, I'm not exactly sure, that was smaller. So we would put
Yeah.
pretty good well. We've been told. Maybe shade and well,
Shells. Please stop. Not recently. Stop recording.
Think about that, but yes. B61 cell here was set up for a man of a very violent inmate. Everything in here is bolted to the ground to stop him from picking up furniture, smashing up his cell, and everything in there is safe for him and anyone else. Then you have this one here, a B50. This is what we call an observation cell. Men that are at risk of self-harm are popped into those cells. There's no mattress. There's There's no bed frame. The bed is basically a concrete slab. The mattress cannot be ripped or torn, or can be pillows. The pillowcase is provided, and the blanket you see there is sewn into squares. You cannot use it as a cell. And the registrated button is there for himself or for the guard who does go in there and see something underneath. There's a little reel on the window. So these guys have to be watched 24 hours a day. Because we did have a gentleman here in Fremantle prison called Leonard Jackson in 1947. He was meant to be executed. He was meant to be the 46th man executed in the prison. But he goes into one of those observation cells before his execution date, and he manages to sneak in a razor blade, take his own life in the cell. And that's been a massive, big, huge issue over the years, and that's when they changed the way these cells operate. The guard lost his job that Leonard Jackson set. Leonard Jackson is also an interesting case. Whether he did or didn't do the crime, we'll never know. He was charged with the murder of a businesswoman he worked with, named Stella. So, to this day, we'll never know if Leonard Jackson did that crime. Now you're going to move into crime on cell, ladies and gentlemen. Convict cells. 7x4, really tiny cells, raw limestone on your walls, and they whitewash your walls on this specific time period. So this time period here becomes a maximum security prison in Western Australia, so they knock out the ring wall.
You won't understand.
And make 2 cells into one. So that's what they're going to do there. And you go to this cell here, pretty much on the benefit of This out here is being bus fed. So now it's decreased the population around 60, it gets about 1,400 inmates. This is like 1,000 bonds, which you saw in cells, when they're larger in cells, you're going down to 500. So you can just imagine what it'd be like when you're in one of these cells for 14 hours a day with bus beds and a bucket. So this one here, you have a portal in place. Now, this superintendent comes in to bring out a person, he thinks he's got the hand in the toilet. I was totally in there. Don't go to the lasts for 4 weeks. And then find out the chemical in that portal contains alcohol. What do you think they're going to do now? They're going to drink the toilet water. So for 4 weeks they get them out and then they put the buckets back in. So home brew was a big problem in prison. Now this one here is very violent inmate. It's almost a lot of trouble in the prison. The only way to make things like in parts the welcome still in there, some of this was around with 1,000 hours of artwork in itself. This one here, B45 is my favourite. That catches our sunrise or our sunset in front of you. See, some of us have been out inmate and two of them actually, they sign off on the bottom there. Beautiful artwork. Take time to have a look at those sessions, then we're going to head down into the ground here. There's actually some research and work on that. We'll took a little map of Australia. I think there's notes from that.
Green.
Just a question with the artwork. Was that accepted or was that punishable?
He was allowed to do that in the modern era. He was. Convict era, it was punishable.
Okay.
Yeah. I was not a believer until I started working at Fremantle prison, and what I've experienced is play. Oh yeah, we don't normally have chairs in here for you to sit and watch, so they must have had a conference in here. So that's just the best here. So, right, you could have obviously very lucky to have some chairs. This is just a video that they recorded. They've edited a lot of it. But in 1990, they did have a film crew come through Fremantle prison, and they filmed all the inmates going about their daily duties and daily jobs that they would do. This is the darker version of it. We have a daytime one where it's aerobics, a Jane Fonda workout video, all big tough men working out to it. The nighttime one you'll see the gallows as we're looking at now. But there's also part of this video where you see a man having his tooth pulled out, which is pretty gross as well. But we won't stay here too long because we need to go down and talk about Martha Randell. Does anyone wonder what Martha Randell did?
For me.
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to get you off out of your chairs, but we're now going to head down to the next part.
Pardoned. Hold. Please.
We're going to go underground. We're going to go down here. There is a spiral staircase. Anyone okay with stairs? Yes, okay with stairs. We do have a lift, so I can take that in if you like. It's nothing. Definitely. Then we'll go down there. So this will come down and get down to this. This is how that computer down up there. Everyone else is okay? Let's go down the spiral staircase and let's put that up. You want
Listen to me. I want to. Come over here.
This area that we're in now, that's built, it got cold because you got here, could be some trouble with it, anyway, we'll leave that alone. But it's also because this is the commissary. So in the convict here, it's keep food from boiling, everything would go underground, and that's why we're quite low underground. It's also where our internet building will be, which is the morgue, which is also underground as well. So we will go, called the dead house back in the day, but we're just waiting for the lady to come down the beach, so I think she might be dead now.
What happened?
This area is now also used for conferences. We do all sorts of stuff in here. We had our work Christmas party in here this year. It wasn't a small area, so yeah, awesome. Those more, but you know, should always yeah, but more. It's like you said, come down. Is there? We have to have someone assist because the lift got stuck one day. So I'm not going to do it myself anymore. I'll wait for someone to come back. Which is the wall? And then? Not in that door, it's on the outside, yeah. This was later used as the shoe, the special handling unit, because the solitary confinement was used up to 73. When they had to
Nobody understands.
So they made this the shoe. At the moment, they're actually doing some work in there, but some of the graffiti in there is really interesting. It goes right back to the 50s, so you get a lot of World War II graffiti. It's a very, very interesting graffiti. She comes down. Oh, stop. And I think it's only 1 or 2 people per time. But thanks, Luke. You might have to hang around to take it back up. All right, I'm just going to come in the room. So sorry, but no, do not apologise. Don't apologise at all. Better you do that than go down those stairs and sorry for Luke. So our very last story tonight, we're going to talk about Martha Randell. So what did Martha Randell? What got Martha Randell executed? What am I saying?
The story of Martha Randell. Well, before I was a mother, I was a mother, stepmother, actually. Very beautiful, sweet, and I loved and beautiful. Our children are wonderful. They get sick. And when they get sick, they cry and cry and cry. They call it diphtheria. You look at a spirit of salt swabbed at the back of the furniture clear up.
Dead. You'd think if it was murder I'd be arrested on the spot, but no! Took them over a year! I was dead in a month.
Now, I hold these feelings. Reminding children, be nice to their mothers. Question stands. Was I really a murderer?
Ground.
Desperate mother.
I'm trying.
So that's exactly what happened to Martha Randell. She had 3 stepchildren. The first little one, Arthur Morris, who died after that, was down with spirits assault. He may have died from the illness that he had. He may have died from diphtheria. We will never ever know. But she was executed within 2 weeks of her trial. There was no appeal. There was no evidence. It was public opinion that executed Martha Randell. One of the most notorious ghosts. Now we are going to go to the morgue. Would you like to come to the morgue, everyone?
Please come back.
Let's head off to the morgue. Dead house, here we are.
Ladies first.
Can you repeat?
Just have a quick question. There was children, women and males.
Yep.
Were they in separate sections?
Yeah, absolutely. And then later on the women go over to that where you see the walled building up there.
Okay.
The women will be in there, probably from late 1880s. So this basically is where our journey ends, as it would have been for so many inmates here at Fremantle Prison. You're now got the eyes of the devil looking at you. You've gone underground.
Idiotic.
Their bodies would have been kept in these little holes here because it is underground. It's very cool in here. You probably feel that cold temperature. So we need to make sure those bodies don't decompose as fast. First 5 people to come into this morgue would have been the 5 men who died living in prison. But it would have been a lot more people as the time went on. Old age,
Yellow.
in the prison, all sorts of issues. But thank you for coming along to Fremantle Prison today. I hope you've enjoyed the journey through the walls. I hope you haven't been too scared for my policies if you have.
Yeah.
It was a very dark building with a lot of dark history. I hope there's been
Lower your voice.
incarcerating people, men, women and children, executions, solitary confinement, the gallows. You can certainly see how horrible this place was and eventually needing to shut down its doors when it did. But it is now in 2010 being recognised by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site because of its importance of that convict era.
Who are they?
History here should never be forgotten. As dark as it is, we cannot forget it. We cannot repeat it, but we cannot forget it. So thank you very much again. If you do want to hear more interesting history about Fremantle prisons, we do tours during the day. We do a convict tour, a behind bars tour, and a true crime tour. It talks about some of the men that were incarcerated in these walls. Make sure you check those cameras, ladies and gentlemen. You never know what you might find. So thank you very much for coming along. We're now going to take you up the stairs, count you out, and enjoy your evening and enjoy your weekend. Thank you again for coming along to Fremantle Prison Torchlight Tour. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Come on out of
Indeed. No thanks.
So yeah, you got window 1, window 2, in second window. Oh yeah, nothing really, but it's absolutely a bit too much. So we're getting all out now. You want to
Tell me about it.
I guess so. Yeah, I see it. It's like a little screamy guy.
I want you to go. Run now. Love. Slowly.
Yeah, I got it close to me and it jumped out. Thanks a lot. See you again. I'll look at your YouTube channel.